Once upon a time, we saw a lady. She was working alone in her office until late at night at the start of the film. Everyone had left her office. Actually, this lady was a comic book publisher, that is, she used to publish books of different kinds of stories. And in this work, she had a partner whose name was Ji-yoon, who is also the main character of our story. Anyway, it was quite late. That lady was in her office and read the story sent by Ji-yoon. She gets surprised. After reading the story, the lady calls Ji-yoon and says that this is the story of my mom's death. How do you know? How did you write this story? Then her call gets disconnected, all the lights were turned off, and the office itself was sealed. Whatever that lady was doing there, everything was running on the computer screen in the form of a comic book. She does not understand what is happening to her. She was also hearing strange voices there. Then someone comes from behind and attacks her with a knife. He was mercilessly killed. The scene is cut here. We are shown two officers who were given the task of solving this lady's case. One of them was named Officer Key. Key's partner tells him that there was no one in this building at midnight. Everyone had left. I don't think anyone should have killed her. Who knows? She might have killed herself. Then a lady officer shows him the pages of the comic book on the computer screen, as the lady was doing. Exactly the same picture was on the page of the comic book. This was a very strange thing. On the other hand, we see Ji-yoon, who was driving her car somewhere in the middle of the night. Ji-yoon is actually a comic writer. That is, along with writing those stories, she also made pictures and drawings related to those stories, and that lady used to publish her stories. Now, when she was going home, a small girl's car suddenly came in front of her. Ji-yoon quickly put the brakes on. Now that little girl comes to her and says, "Will you drop me at my house? My house is nearby." Ji-yoon had also made her sit in her car. On the way, she asks her, "Okay, tell me what your name is and how old you are." That little girl tells Ji-yoon her name and also says that I am 16 years old. Ji-yoon says, "Okay, but you look only 10 years old," to which the child replies that I was 10 years old when I died. Ji-yoon was surprised to hear this and was also scared. When she looked at that little girl, she was missing from her car. She comes out of the car in fear. Then someone grabbed her hand tightly. She was scared and sat in her car again. Then she sees the soul of that little girl in front of her car, which was full of blood. After a while, we are shown that Ji-yoon was somewhere else. Now she feels that maybe all this is her imagination, her thoughts. But when she looks at the mark on her hand, she finds everything strange. After this, she goes to her doctor. She tells him that everything has been strange with her for a few days. She either has strange dreams or thoughts. When I come out of those dreams or thoughts, I am in a different world, in a different place, and I get marks on my body too. The doctor tells Ji-yoon that this often happens to many people. This can also be a disease. I think there is a clash between your real world and the world of dreams, because of which all this is happening to you. There in the lab, the doctor was checking the body of that lady who died in the office. The doctor tells Officer K, "I think this lady took her own life because there are marks of her fingers on the knife too. And at that time, there was no one else in the office except her." But Officer K refuses to believe this and says that this cannot happen because why would anyone kill him so mercilessly? After which, in his office, Officer K was reading Ji-yoon's comic book, the end of which is the last part, and he gets scared. Then his partner says, "Why don't you agree? That lady took her own life. We should close this case." But Officer K refuses to believe this. He didn't feel anything like that. He wanted to get to the bottom of this case. When Ji-yoon was sleeping in her house, her doorbell rang. When she went and saw it, there was her partner, a lady publisher, standing there, who had died in the office. But Ji-yoon didn't know anything about this yet. That's why she tells him to come inside. When she looked at her again, her body was full of blood. Seeing this, Ji-yoon gets scared and wakes up. It means this was also a dream of hers. Then the officer and his companions came to meet her. They tell her about the death of that lady. She says that she took her own life, and her body was found in a state like the character cartoon you had made in your comic book. They ask if you sent this comic book to someone else. She says no. First, my publisher, who is dead and about whom you are telling me, sees this comic book. Then it is sent to someone else. She says that she called you for the last time. Ji-yoon says no. It can't be. I had sent her the comic and switched off my phone. After this, we are shown a man named Sun who used to pick up the burned bodies. He was still going to do the same work with his companion, but his companion has to go to work, so now Sun has to go alone. Now, when he reached that place and was looking for something from his bag, the lights there started to burn. and the position of the burned body there also changes. He gets the tab of his companion, in which the same comic was going on that had happened with Sun 5 years ago. Actually, his wife was very sick. She was not able to recover from any treatment, so Sun gave the wrong medicine to his wife and killed her. And when he sees all this in his story tab, he gets surprised and is very scared. Then the burnt body caught him from behind, and something pulled him in and closed him in where the corpses were kept. Here we can see that his wife's spirit wanted to take revenge on him because he had killed her for no reason. The same comic was sitting and was also looking at the officer. He also has some doubts, so he went to the hospital to investigate. There was also June, and when he came to know about this comic, he came to him to save Sun. But he killed him because of his wife's fear. Then the officer also comes there, who is now considering June as Sun's killer. He took June with him. June tells him that I did not kill him. I saw a soul there. The officer says, let's assume that you did not kill him. Then how do you know about the lives of that lady and Sun? That all this had happened to him, and you also wrote a comic on his life. June tells the officer, I have not written these stories, these comics. Actually, a year ago, my comic became famous. After that, I did not get any new ideas. One day I got an email from an unknown number in which there were pictures of very strange drawings, just like I wanted to write, and all my stories are in those pictures. And until today, I have not tried to know who emails me. Now everyone was listening to the story of June, who said that the person who sends emails to him is the real killer. He only knows about everything, and he is killing everyone. Now, after a lot of investigation, the officer finds out the address of the email from which he sent it. Meanwhile, he gets a case about a little girl who went missing from her house a few years ago. Her name was Hyun, and her last location was the same address from which June used to send mail, and Jun used to stay at this address 5 years ago. The officer takes June to the same address and asks, do you know Hyun? She says, yes, I know. A few years before today, when I did not have a job, I was very worried. I saw Hyun drawing on the wall. Then some people came and started harassing her. I saved her. I was missing her a lot. She had no one in this world, so that's why I kept her with me. We became very good friends. One day, a woman came to our house. She started hitting Hyun. She said that my child died because of her. Just like she had drawn, my child died. Our landlord also threatened to leave the house. I explained to everyone that Hyun did not do anything. One day, when I came home after winning my competition, I saw that someone had set our house on fire. After that, I never saw Hyun. After telling a lot of stories, June brings Officer Key to the same house where a computer was lying, and June used to send emails from this computer. Officer Key was now suspicious that this work may be by Hyun. She secretly emails you. June says no. I don't think she does everything. Officer Key says to see about this place. No one knows except you or Hyun. After this, they both go to the hotel. Then we see here that someone is keeping an eye on Officer Key and June here. Officer Key gets a call from his companion. Then June also received a message from Hyun that he had come to meet him at his old house. Seeing this message, June was scared, and without telling anyone, she left with Officer Key's car. Officer Key asks her a lot, where are you going? But she doesn't say anything and leaves with the car. Now whenever she reaches her old house, suddenly someone comes and attacks her, due to which she fainted. There, Officer Key calls his companion and tells her that June has run away. Hearing this, his companion says that you both were together in the hotel just now. Hearing this, Officer Key gets surprised because he had not told his companion that they both had gone to the hotel. This is why Officer Key follows his companion to his location, and here we come to know that June had not messaged Officer Key as Hyun, and he fainted. Now June was in the custody of Officer Key's companion. He had kidnapped him and brought him someplace, and he asks him, tell me where Hyun is, who supports you in these comics. Here he shows him a picture of a little girl and asks her, you and your companion have made her Hyun, right? Tell me, where is she? Actually, a few years ago, there was an incident with Officer Key's companion when he applied for a police job, and at that time, he also liked a girl with whom he was going to marry. But one day, when it was raining heavily and he was going to his house, a little girl came in front of his car, and there was a very bad accident that he wanted to save, but he thought that if I saved her, I would get stuck, I would not get a police job, and I would not get married. Thinking this way, he does not save that girl and lets her die. This was the same girl who June had met at the beginning of the story, the soul of that child, and because of this, Officer Key's companion wanted to kill June because he felt that he had found out his secret. As the stories of other people's lives come out, his secret will also come out. As soon as June was about to die, the lights in that place turned off, and now the soul of that girl had come in front of him. Then Officer Key also reaches here, who sees June unconscious and also sees that his companion has a gun on his head. He tells him not to do this. Give me the gun. His companion says that he does not want to do this. The soul of that girl who is making me do all this wants to take revenge on me. Now that gun burns. The officer's companion had died. After this, the commissioner comes to the scene and asks Officer Key how he died, to which he tells me that he was killed by the soul. The commissioner says that you have gone mad. Nothing like that happens. You were with him, so the first step will go to you. So do what I say. One day, when Officer Key was sitting, remembering his companion, a lady officer came and gave him a picture of that little girl who was with him before he died. The same girl who died in front of his car. He sees June's comics while meeting her. He was doubting him again. There, June gets his mail again. Now there is no one else in those pictures, but there were pictures similar to June's own story. Now we are shown the story of June and Hun. When Hun was small, she used to behave strangely and also make drawings. Her dad threw her out of his house, saying that she reminded him of his mom. We can see here that Hun's dad was none other than Mr. Sun, who killed his wife. Then Hun told June that since I have separated from my parents, I can hear the dead people, and they come and tell me their stories. Then I don't know what happens to me. I start making drawings even if I don't want to. After knowing all this, June gets an idea. She started using her drawings. She used to publish them in her name and became a very good comic writer. One day, when Hun came to know about all this, she told June that you were misusing my drawings. She says that all these stories are about souls. It is not good to publish them. Those souls will kill people. June says, what does it matter to us? Hun already knew that June was greedy now. She wants to be successful soon. She set the house on fire and forbade June from taking her drawings. That's why there was a lot of fighting between them. Meanwhile, June picked up a stone and threw it on Hun's head, which killed him. This means that no one else but June killed Hun, and the story she told earlier was a lie. After this, she took all the drawings of Hun and got them published. Later, she became a famous comic writer. Now the story is present again. June was coming to her old house and was remembering Hun a lot, saying that she had done a lot wrong with him. That's why we can see here the powers that were with Hun earlier. After her death, all those powers went to June. She was writing stories about 3 souls. One of that lady's mothers died first, second, of her son's wife, and third, of that little girl. All of them told their stories to June. In the beginning of the story, the lady we saw in the office who was June's partner was killed by her mother's soul because she didn't save her mother when she died. Second, of her son's wife, who killed her husband because she killed him on purpose. And third, the little girl who killed her officer's companion and took her revenge. Ji-yoon herself used to write those stories, mail them to herself, and then take them home and publish them. When June was at her old house, the officer came to look for her because she still had doubts about her. Here, suddenly, June attacks her. The officer says, "This means you killed everyone." June says, "No, I didn't kill anyone. Everyone killed themselves because they killed their own people, and their own people killed them, and June took revenge. I only write their stories." And the officer says, "You are not right to accuse me." That's why there were comic pages on the wall. Here, too, we get to know one more thing about this story. When June's companion was trying to kill him, he took the gun from his companion's hand and asked him to calm down. Then suddenly, June's hand was shot, and June's companion died. Then he cleaned his gun and put it in his hand, so that everyone felt that he had killed himself. Now the new stories were being made. Now it was Kiki's turn. Her companion's soul came to take revenge. He controls her and shoots the gun, which also kills Kiki. We see June, who quietly comes out of her old house. Now will June keep writing the stories of the dying people? And will they come and take revenge on the murderers? And with this, the story of this movie ends.